Liz Crosby here with your weekly astrology forecast for the week beginning May 3rd, ending May 9th, 2021. So we've got a lot of Gemini energy coming into the field, as this week we have both Mercury and Venus moving into the sign of Gemini. So we're finishing up our round with these personal planets in the fixed earth sign, which it represents congelation, the initial interaction with the earth element and fire. And so we are taking that information regarding the state of the earth element. It is what it is. Where the earth element lies predetermines the Kundalini algorithm, and we are whisking that information back to the lungs for witnessing and processing, right? Taking it back to the sun of solar plexus so it can then be burned and purified. And this is exactly why Mercury is the messenger of the gods and is associated with Gemini, because this is a transitory phase. So the mercurial energy of Gemini is such that communication can be amplified, although we are going to move into the pre-shadow phase of Mercury retrograde pretty soon here. So it'll be really interesting to have so much Gemini energy in the field, both of those personal planets, North Node and Mercury going Gemini. It'll be in Gemini for 2 months, because it'll go retrograde as it's near its completion and then backtrack throughout the whole sign. So lots and lots of Gemini energy. Of course, I myself am so excited because Gemini energy means that we can really transmit this information, and we do need to make esoteric knowledge common knowledge, and that is something that the dark has specialized in, is distorting the truth, distorting the universal laws, the hermetic principles. And if you look at some of the flagrant attacks, I'll call it, on our ability to conduct Kundalini energy through brainwashing, they are directly targeting the hermetic principles in many instances. So hopefully all of this Gemini energy will be really good for us. This week in particular, we have the moon waning, which means that we're going towards the darker phases of the moon, towards the new moon. The new moon won't actually be until next week, May 11th, but do know that you do want to keep practicing, right? Don't just wait until your new moon ceremony to set intentions. Really, we can be utilizing all of the phases of the moon if we're practicing diligently daily to assess and refine our alignment in all of our postures. We still have a lot of Taurus energy in the chart right now. Of course, the sun is still in Taurus, so really tap into that energy of where is the earth element. And if it's out of place, then, which most definitely it is because we're all still here, if it's in disarray, then how is it creating distortions in my holographic projected reality? So really tune in, not just to, of course, the physical practice, but let the body speak to you as you hold space this week, and know that the shapes and holding all the different orientations with respect to gravity, calling all the corners as it were, is going to be a little bit more challenging as the gravitational pull intensifies ever so slightly as we move through the week. So be aware of that. Again, this is something that most people disregard in their practice or disregard spiritually, but it makes a really big difference spiritually because it impacts how well we're able to share life force energy, spirit with matter. So the first day, Monday, May 3rd, we have Mercury going into Gemini, but as it does so, it's going to square Jupiter because they're both at their end degree, the 29th degree of both Taurus and Aquarius. So this is going to be a very productive day. I know that sometimes squares can be a little bit problematic or challenging, to say the least, difficult, but we also have the Sun square Saturn. So that one will probably be more problematic, more challenging to deal with, but whenever Jupiter's involved, it's such a gigantic planet and it's a benefic that it can usually kind of cancel out some of the more adverse side effects of squares. So we are stepping forward. Taurus square Aquarius transmissions are really letting themselves be known to us before we transition, again, all of this energy into Gemini. So pay close attention to what's beaming through, what's being transmitted on Monday. And then Tuesday, we have the moon moving into Pisces. So we finished up our round in Aquarius, and the moon will be moving into Pisces. So it'll be really interesting because this week we're going to have the moon cross over Neptune. And that's going to be, as always, challenging because, of course, Neptune does rule dreams, but also the media. So that's why they say that the symbol for Neptune looks like almost like a TV antenna. And the media, of course, has been at its wit's end, doing absolutely everything that it can to lengthen this process of our awakening. Because there's really, obviously, the light has already won. We've already realized our oneness by virtue of the fact that we can intellectually understand the universal laws. And now we are beginning as a species to align our actions with coming into alignment with those universal laws instead of just having an intellectual understanding, overstanding of them, but actually integrating them into our very practice of being. And in that way, the dark has already lost, the light has already won. But again, with all of this Neptune energy in Pisces, lucid dreams are on fleek, of course, but the media is gonna be an acid trip. So maybe try to pay less attention to it unless it really, really demands your attention. If it's something local and you really have to pay attention to. On Wednesday, we have the moon continuing its transit through Pisces, and it will trine Mars in Cancer, which will be really interesting. Again, we've spoken about this, how Mars is in its fall. I've been getting, this is bizarre, but I've been getting a lot of just rectifying and atoning for all of the raping and pillaging that took place, especially in medieval Europe. And it's a lot of this, again, warrior type energy, right? Mars is associated with Aries. Aries is its home constellation. And here in Cancer, it's kind of weepy. It's kind of, it wants to cry. So just let it cry. Like, we were brainwashed into doing that to ourselves. And all is forgiven on both sides. And I mean, telltale sign, we would dose ourselves with a buttload of alcohol and intoxicants before we would go and do that, because it was an order that we didn't want to fulfill, but it was presumably necessary to be able to control a nation state, to create that trauma so that they would be more subservient. And little did we know that that trauma would be embedded into the very fabric of our beingness. Again, the media, YOLO, you only live once. It's a big distortion and distraction. That trauma is going nowhere until we look at it and address it. So tune in as we experience this water trine between the moon and Mars on Wednesday. And there will also be a sextile with Uranus. And as we know, that's always a good thing. So Uranus being in Taurus. So the sign that we're skipping between the moon is Aries. So the moon is going to speak to us emotionally about what it means to right those wrongs, how we can actually right those wrongs by getting upside down, by taking the battle inside, and by illuminating the darkness in each our own fields of consciousness. And we were distracted by fighting something outside of ourselves. And of course, that caused the trauma to unfold and to manifest in our field. So even though it's all a hologram, it still needs to be addressed. We still need to feel into the feels. So Thursday, we have Venus in Taurus trine to Pluto in Capricorn retrograde. So that'll be fun. Again, more of that reaffirmation that the divine feminine is ready, and it's ready to embrace a new form of love, a more upgraded version of our romanticism. We've played out the old paradigm, current paradigm, biped T-Rex romanticism, and some of us are actually starting to feel into the Akashic, into universal consciousness, and we can actually replay all of the best hits, right? So and now we're starting to, through remote viewing, we're starting to see what sort of things people are doing in ancient civilization for temple maintenance, mind body matrix maintenance, and how that allows the cities to activate, and how that actually allows us to connect on a much, much deeper level than what we've previously been doing. Not to negate what we've been doing, it's still beautiful in its own way. It's beautiful to see how even in a decrepit universal grid that isn't illuminating space, we can still connect. And again, you can always go back and do past life regression as same self. You can go into any experience and relive it, but it is time to move on. And Pluto is going to be chiming in on Thursday with why we want this. It's the oversoul. It's so freaking far out there. And it is associated with Scorpio. So it's like, okay, we know what we want and we know what we don't want because we have such a far out perspective. So now we know what we want. We have to separate out what we don't want. So give yourself permission to almost kind of mourn, I would say, this old ideology of romanticism, so that you can let it die, and you can let this new form of romanticism where both man and woman, or both parties, are really, really tapped in, tuned in, and turned on to source through balancing the polarities, the masculine and the feminine energy channels throughout the chakra system. And both can connect to source and remote view from each other even, and feel into each other's oneness, right? This is why Libra is considered to be one of the best lovers, is because they have perfect empathy. So again, as we move towards Ophiuchus 13th zodiac, we will all start to have this Libra superpower, and we'll all be able to experience perfect empathy with each other. Can you imagine a romantic relationship with perfect empathy? No, we can't, because we're not there yet, but we know how to get there. So Friday, the moon will finally move into Venus. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all of the clearing work that we'll be doing Wednesday and Thursday as the moon moves through Pisces and, hits Neptune and trines to Mars and Cancer. But it's going to be a moment of reprieve when the moon moves into Aries on Friday. Again, the energy will still be getting heavier, so be aware of that, but you're going to have a little boost. And then we'll have Saturday, May 8th, Venus in Taurus square to Jupiter. So everybody is squaring Jupiter before they move into Gemini. And again, it's this moment of beautiful expansion, and it's almost kind of like a nice little send-off, like, good luck, now we're moving into Gemini, and hopefully we're going to get this information out there and transmit it. Again, there are varying degrees of people and their willingness to receive this information. So really gauge it. If you try too hard with someone that has a closed mind, it could actually set them back a little bit, because they'll get really turned off by the incessant persuasiveness of the rhetoric. So again, really check in and make sure that the people you're interacting with also, and really do want to hang out with people that aren't closed-minded. So if you can, see if you can, because Venus is also associated with relationships, see if you can surround yourself with like-minded individuals that are open-minded, that are critical thinkers, that are conscious co-creators, and are going to assist you in holding space in your field of consciousness. There's a lot of astrologers saying that this is going to be a kind of a recovery day. And again, if the new moon, dark phase of the moon vibes start to get to you, of course, now it might be a good time to kind of rest and recover, as it's the end of the week. But yeah, guys, it's crazy to me. This is why I started doing this. I know I'm not getting nearly as many views as my actual yoga flows. I'll get back on that too, but this is just blowing my mind, how literally the astrology is reflecting back at us our planetary ascension. And it's giving us the play-by-play. The planets are guiding us. And I had to start getting these out so that people could start to integrate this information. But Of course, Sunday we have Mother's Day. The moon in Aries may still be a little bit challenging. As we know, Aries can be a little bit argumentative and competitive at times, but and it will also be conjunct to Chiron at some point, probably Saturday, but nonetheless, that quick Passover Chiron is always really fun, isn't it? So heal thyself, right? And don't try to waste your energy on trying to heal other people. Lead by example. But then by the end of the day, so maybe do your Mother's Day celebration later in the day, because it will have moved into Taurus. So we'll have double the bowl, sun and moon and bowl. And Taurus is such a great motherly energy. Again, it's fixed earth. It's like Mama Gaia. It reminds me always of the story of Sita when they rescue her from Lanka, and they are, right, Rama is convinced that her husband, her king, she's the queen, is convinced that she probably got it on with the king of Lanka, right? Like, she was with him for so long, and she didn't. And so she was steadfast in her truthfulness, and she was so certain that she was speaking truth that, of course, kind of mystical, but she encouraged people, Rama and his men, to light her sari on fire, and it would catch a fire if she was speaking an untruth, if she was lying. And so they tried to light her sari on fire, and they couldn't, because she is truth. So I'm just so grateful for Mama Gaia and the earth element. For the longest time I fought it. I really didn't want physics to be the truth. I really didn't want the, because think of all of the ramifications that entails. And I knew that meant doing a lot of work on myself, because if the microcosm is the macrocosm and it's about holding out space in your sphere, I knew when I first started to come upon these Hermetic principles that I had a significant amount of darkness in my field. And I didn't want to have to play that active role. But now that my Kundalini energy has started to fire, and I'm able to access this inner technology and practice astral projection, remote viewing, even jumping timelines to see from different timelines, the earth element, it really speaks truth. And it has been carrying each and every misgiving, grievance, transgression that has ever occurred throughout human history. It's recorded in your body. And so, of course, it's a little bit heavy to realize that all of the distortions that have yielded all of the unnecessary pain and suffering throughout all of our human existence is recorded in our body. It's heavy. It's really heavy. But it gives us a template. It gives us direction. It lets us know exactly what we need to do to sow those seeds, to illuminate those nadis, right? Like the labyrinth, the minotaur. And if we want to subdue and neutralize the minotaur, we need to actually be the labyrinth and illuminate those nadis, those energetic tubular channels, with our alchemy. So it's going to be a good week. Again, give yourself time to rest as is needed, as the gravitational pull continues to intensify. Maybe pare it down, pull back on so many vinyasas, on so many sun salutations, because the gravitational pull is such that you won't need to do as much heat generative stuff to get yourself hot internally. And save your wrists for imprinting especially your inversions, of course. So again, especially with the Uranus stuff at the beginning of the week, we're gonna want to really get upside down. So do take the time to get upside down and save the energy on your wrist. Do some extra wrist love too, I would say, because again, the wrist will start to talk to you sooner as we move closer to the new moon. So wrist exercises, maybe even some self-massage, and help that energy to clear out. Work decompression also, so hanging. I'm so excited for the aerial rig. It's not here yet, but I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, going to get it within a month or two. So yeah, the hanging is so crucial when we move closer to the new moon. So hang and decompress the wrists and give yourself time to process your karmas, especially if you're not able to process while you're practicing asana yet. Give yourself some time to practice seated meditation so that you can get used to the seventh limb and start to implement it into your asana practice as well. And more stuff tends to come up because you do get hotter with the intensified gravitational pull of the new moon than usual. And so if you get hotter, then you see more. So this is why I think people also tend to get a little bit more emotional, because stuff just naturally starts to come up around the new moon, and people don't know why, and then they usually tend to project. So watch out for that too. Don't take on other people's stuff. Save all of your energy for the battle of Kurukshetra and for helping others with their own battle of Kurukshetra. So hope you have a lovely week, and I will try to get some tutorials up this week. Last week I was subbing a bunch of classes, so I'm only subbing one so far that I know of this week. So hopefully I can get up some tutorials, and join me on Zoom. I teach Zoom classes for both Harmony House and Pismo and for Cal Poly Rec Center. So if you want to jump on the Zooms, please do so. I'm so excited that Harmony House is starting to open back up and do in-person classes again. So if not, if you're local, I'll see you at Meadow Park, and let's do the things. Namaste.